Did you know that some of the laws we use today trace back nearly 1,500 years? That's the story of the Justinian Code, a legal time capsule that survived the fall of empires to shape our modern world. Most ancient documents vanished, but the Justinian Code endured, copied and studied long after its empire disappeared. This legal system became the foundation for many European laws and eventually global legal thinking. After the Western Roman Empire fell, the code was forgotten in Europe until its dramatic rediscovery in an Italian library centuries later. Scholars were stunned by its sophistication, sparking a legal revolution that swept across the continent. Concepts like innocent until proven guilty and the idea that laws should be written for all to see. Those are echoes of Justinian's project. The code's survival shows how powerful ideas can outlast empires, ready to be revived by future generations. It's not just about laws, it's about how knowledge connects us to the ambitions of people long gone. The Justinian Code is proof that a single, well-organized idea can echo through history. Consider that. Who was behind this world-changing code? Justinian I, Emperor of the Byzantine Empire, ruling from Constantinople from 527 to 565. Justinian dreamed of restoring Rome's glory, not just through conquest, but by reviving its soul, the law. By his time, Roman law was a tangled mess, centuries of conflicting rules and opinions. Justinian believed a great empire needed great laws, clear, consistent, and accessible to all. He saw it as his sacred duty to create a single, definitive body of law for his diverse empire. This wasn't just about organization, it was about unity and power. A unified code would bind the empire together, ensuring justice was applied equally from Egypt to Constantinople. Justinian's goal: distill 1,000 years of Roman legal thought into a timeless system. This project would define his reign and become his greatest legacy. He wasn't just a conqueror or builder, he was a reformer who changed history. That's the emperor behind the code. To appreciate Justinian's achievement, you need to understand the chaos he faced. By the 6th century, Roman law was a confusing jumble, centuries of decrees, opinions, and contradictions. Judges struggled to find the right law, often facing conflicting rules and endless commentaries. Legal proceedings were slow, expensive, and unpredictable. Justice depended on who could find the most obscure law. This confusion hurt trade, governance, and ordinary people, making the law a source of frustration instead of stability. Corruption thrived in the legal maze, and the system was ripe for abuse. Justinian saw this as a fatal weakness at the heart of his empire. He wanted every citizen, from Italy to Syria, judged by the same principles. His mission: sweep away outdated, contradictory laws and replace them with a single logical code. Only then could Rome's legacy and his empire truly be restored. That's why a new code was essential. Justinian didn't just tweak the law, he launched one of history's most ambitious legal projects. He assembled a dream team led by Tribonian, a brilliant legal mind, to tackle the chaos. Their first task: sift through centuries of imperial laws, cutting out contradictions and organizing what remained. In just over a year, they produced the Codex Justinianus, a clear, organized collection of valid laws. But the real challenge was the vast writings of Rome's greatest legal scholars. The team condensed thousands of volumes into the Digest, a 50-book encyclopedia of legal wisdom. They also created the Institutes, a textbook for new law students. Together, the Code, Digest, and Institutes formed the Corpus Juris Civilis, the body of civil law. This was more than a rulebook. It was a complete legal system, distilled and unified. The project was a monumental achievement, setting a new standard for legal organization. Justinian's team turned a millennium of legal chaos into a single, coherent work. Their work would echo through history. That's how the code was born. What was inside the Corpus Juris Civilis? It wasn't just a list of rules, it was a sophisticated system covering nearly every aspect of life. The code contained imperial laws, the digest, expert opinions, the institutes, a student's guide. It addressed marriage, divorce, inheritance, business, contracts, and property, laying out clear rights and responsibilities. The code made crucial distinctions like owning versus possessing property, ideas still central to law today. It provided a stable framework for resolving disputes and supporting the economy. Most importantly, it was built on principles of justice, law based on reason and fairness. Justice is the constant and perpetual will to render to each his due, the institutes declared. Concepts like innocent until proven guilty and equality before the law were embedded in its pages. While not always perfectly applied, these ideals inspired legal thinkers for centuries. The Justinian Code set the standard for what law could and should be. Once complete, the Corpus Juris Civilis became the sole source of law in the Byzantine Empire. Justinian voided all previous laws. Judges could only use the new code, creating unprecedented legal unity. Legal education was reformed. Only designated schools could teach law, and the curriculum was based on the new code. Every lawyer and judge received the same rigorous training, ensuring consistency across the empire. In court, the code brought predictability. Judges relied on written law and rational argument, not tradition or influence. Trials followed clear procedures, with rules for evidence and penalties. This systematic approach was a major leap forward for justice. Yet, the emperor's authority remained supreme. Justinian could still issue new laws called novels to adapt the code. The system was both stable and flexible, able to evolve with the empire's needs. The Corpus Juris Civilis provided a solid foundation, but the emperor retained the power to shape the law. This balance of order and adaptability was key to its success. The code's influence would soon reach far beyond Byzantium. That's how it worked in practice, and why it mattered. After Justinian, his code remained in the East, but in Western Europe, it was forgotten as kingdoms relied on local customs. That changed around 1070, when scholars in Pisa rediscovered the Digest, a treasure trove of Roman legal wisdom. Europe was ready for change. Cities were growing, trade was booming, and a rational legal system was needed. The University of Bologna became the center for studying Roman law, attracting students from across the continent. These scholars, called glossators, revived and adapted the code, spreading its principles throughout Europe. Kings and the church used its ideas to build stronger, more centralized legal systems. The Justinian Code became the common legal language of Europe, shaping the foundations of modern law. An ancient code, reborn for a new era. The Justinian Code's influence didn't end in the Middle Ages. It's woven into the legal systems of many countries today. Civil law nations like France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and much of Latin America are direct descendants of Roman law. The Napoleonic Code, inspired by Justinian's principles, spread this legacy even further. Even in common law countries like the US and UK, Roman legal ideas, contracts, property, inheritance, left their mark. The concept of law as a rational, accessible system taught in schools is a direct legacy of Justinian's reforms. When you sign a contract or debate fairness, you're engaging with ideas preserved in the Corpus Juris Civilis. The work of people 15 centuries ago still shapes our daily lives. That's the enduring power of the Justinian Code. Why do we still talk about Justinian? Because his code was more than laws. It was a declaration that society should be governed by reason and fairness. The code's survival and adaptation across centuries prove the power of well-organized ideas. Justinian didn't invent every law. His genius was collecting, editing, and organizing a millennium of wisdom into a usable system. He turned chaos into order, a lesson as relevant today as ever. The story isn't over. Lawyers and historians still study the code, and its principles continue to spark debate. It invites us to ask, what makes a law fair? How do we balance tradition and change? These are the questions Justinian's team faced, and we still face today. So stay curious. The next time you hear about a new law, remember the journey of ideas that brought us here. The world is full of stories like this, waiting to be discovered. Consider that.